Hi there, and welcome to uh, another video. Today's video is episode 0 of a tutorial series. This is the speed solving series. So the speed solving series is going to be a series where I teach you how to speed solve a plethora of events, including all 18 of the WCA events, um, any past WCA events, and any events that I think could be in it in the future, as well as some events that I just personally want to teach. Um, so the episode 1 will be on 3x3, obviously. It'll be the beginner's method. But this video is basically just a tutorial on how to get started. Because not everyone knows how to get started with cubing, and it's kind of something important to think about. So I'm going to talk about 7 different 3x3s that I think are really good beginner-friendly 3x3s, as well as just good 3x3s in general. So if you're on a budget of budgets and like you need the cheapest OK cube of all time, the RS3M 2020 is obviously the best one. I do not have mine with me right now, but it is definitely a good cube to start with. It can be somewhat obnoxious and loud with spring noise, but with good setup, it can be good. My next suggestion for budget level cubes is the RS3M V5 and the Super RS3M 2022. Not the V2. V2 is overpriced. But the V1 is good, and I used the ball core. This used to be my main for a very long time. And I really enjoy it. It's a good cube. And if I didn't own the YS3M or the RS3M V5, I would probably still use it. It's only $22, 23-ish in US dollars, and then this is only 25 in USD. So they're both very similar in price. Overall, this is for the max versions, by the way. Overall, I prefer the V5, but that's because I use it for one-handed. This is also a very good cube. It just depends on what features you're looking for. If you're looking for a UV coated cube for cheap, the V5 is pretty good. But if you don't care for UV coating yet, or just don't care for it at all, the Super is a very, very good choice. And I think it's overall the better starter pick. Over the RS3M 2020, actually. Even though the RS3M 2020 is way cheaper, I think the Super is just the better option. Next up, for our $30 range, these are all $30 range, and are all pretty good. We have the GAN 356 maglev. Mine is the UV coated one, so it's like $33 or something like that. I think it's 28 for the non-UV coated one. I don't remember. But yeah, it's a very good cube. Very good adjustability system. Strong magnets. Smooth turning and all that. I just personally don't use it because I'm not a fan of GAN cubes and it doesn't match my turning style. Next up we have the Tornado V3. I actually modded mine because my original core broke. And that's the one bad thing about the V3 is the core does break after enough solves. And it's just a good cube otherwise. This is the flagship, which is the most popular version. It's $33 as well. I think it's good. I think it's a good cube. I also think the Pioneer is a good cube. But like, if you don't feel like adjusting 24 magnets, then I would definitely not suggest this. Next up we have the YS3M, which is the last of our $30 budget cubes. And this is $36, I think. This is my overall pick, but that's mostly because this is my second YS3M. I really enjoy using the YS3M. It's a very fast but reliable cube. So the corner cutting is good. And like, it's fast but blocky, so it forces me to have more accurate turning, yet it can still handle my fast turn speed. So it's just a good cube if you have a higher turn speed. My last suggestion is the Wheelong Worm V9. I do not own and have not used a V10 or V11 for long enough. I've tried the V10, and I haven't even touched a V11, so I could not recommend either of those cubes because I'm not qualified to do that, but the Worm V9, even though it's older, is definitely one of my favorite cubes of all time. My one problem with it is it turned too fast for me. So if you have like a more controlled turn speed, which you probably will if you're watching the beginner tutorials, then the Worm V9 is definitely a really good choice. It's $43 for the best version though. I'm excluding the 20 magnet ball core because it already has 20 magnets in the max version. So I don't know what the 20 magnet ball core does, but it does something. I think it just adds magnets into the ball core, rather than just having corner and edge magnets like the other Worm V9 does, and having corner to core. But that's just what I think. I don't actually know because I don't own one and I don't care to. Anyways, that's my suggestions for 3x3. Now let's get on to the basic starting tutorial. Okay, so for our starting tutorial, this is basically the tutorial that competitions will use. They will teach this at pretty much every competition you go to. They have a beginner's tutorial if you've never been to a competition. And there's a few other YouTubers who have tutorials on this, but I thought I'd make my own in episode 0. So first up, let's talk about the timer. We actually have something extra to talk about. So at the time of recording and posting this video, the WCA has made the plan to change from 2-pad to 4-pad, which is where you use these 2 thumb pads and these 2 pads. So I'll be teaching both 2-pad and 4-pad, because they're planning to change it to 4-pad and it hasn't been done yet. So first of all, this is a Gen 5 cup stacks timer. So SpeedStacks is a cup stacking company, and they make all of the stuff for the SpeedStacks Association or organization or whatever that is. And there's a lot of people in there as well. Cubers ended up using the timer as well because it works really well for cubing. The cup stacking world introduced this timer with 4-pad because of their regulations changing, and they changed it to 4-pad as soon as this timer came out. But with cubing, this is only a recent change that they changed it to 4-pad, so this still has access to 2-pad. So when you first buy one, it will be in 4-pad mode. To change it to 2-pad mode, you hold the reset button until this light turns yellow. And down here, it'll say 2-pad instead of 4-pad. So these thumb buttons don't do anything. So if I put both of my hands here, I can lift up my thumbs and it doesn't do anything. And then I can lift up my hands and it'll start. So with 2-pad, these 2 are the pressure pads that you want to use. You want to put your whole arms, you want to put your palms on them. If you have longer fingers, you can also just put from these 2 knuckles on it. And you want to put your thumbs around this area just to get used to having your thumbs in that area. And then you're going to wait. This light will turn red when your hands are on it. And then when it turns green is when you can take your hands off and it will actually start the timer. So if you see, if I put my hands on it and then let go too fast, it doesn't start. But if you put your hands on it and then let go when it turns green, it will start normally. So there's 2 ways you can stop it. Number 1 is with the reset button. So if you accidentally started it or something, you can press the reset button until it resets and it will go back to 0. Or the better way for timing your solves is you put your hands back on the pressure pads. So after you finish solving your puzzle, you will put your hands down and it will stop the timer, flash a few times, and then you can reset it whenever this number gets written down. At competitions, they'll have a paper for you and the judge, the person watching your solve, making sure it's real and all that, will write this time down on the paper. Typically, just these 2 digits are needed, but I personally like the 3rd digit for extra accuracy, even though they don't put it. So you only need these 2 digits. They're the only ones that are important. And then the seconds, obviously, and minutes. And then after they put that, what you're going to do to be a good person, you're going to reset the timer after your solve has been recorded, so that way the next person doesn't have to do that. This is just general decency, and it's a good thing to do because it makes sure that everyone gets a fair amount of time during their solves, and they don't have to waste time resetting it before their solve. Because you're getting up, and you can do this while standing up, and nobody's going to get called right as you're getting up for the most part. So yeah. The change back to 4-pad, you just press and hold the reset button again, and this light will turn blue, and it'll say 4-pad here. So to use 4-pad, what you're going to do is you're going to put your thumbs on the thumb pads and your hands on the hand pads. And once you lift up even one of the pads, it will start. And then to stop it again, as you can see, 2-pad doesn't do anything. You have to put your hands on the thumb pads as well. So you have to do all 4. And resetting is just the same as it was on 2-pad. So you take your hands off completely, and then you put your hands back on all the way. When it comes to the WCA, karate chop is not allowed to stop or start the timer. Another thing is when solving, you're not allowed to be touching the cube before you solve. This will result in either a +2 or a did not finish, also known as a DNF. And you're not allowed to stop the timer while touching the cube. This counts as a +2. Or DNF. Typically this is decided by a judge, although most of the time it will be a +2. Let's talk about other +2 penalties. So there's a lot of penalties. I'm only going to talk about the relevant ones because they're actually somewhat important. So before you solve, your cube or puzzle will be under a cover. For example, like this. Typically it's a more professional cover, but this is what it looks like. And then your judge will remove it when you say the word ready, or something similar. And then they will remove it and start a stopwatch known as your inspection time. Inspection time is technically 15 seconds, although you can get up to 17 seconds, but 12 seconds is what you should be using. So the reason why I say this is because the judge will remind you your time at 8 and 12 seconds. So they'll say 8 seconds or 8, and then they'll say 12 seconds or 12 at their respective times. Once you reach 8 seconds, you should know that you should be getting close to setting the cube down and then starting the timer. When they say 12 seconds, you should have your hands on the timer ready to start. The only reason I say this is because if you hit over 15 seconds but under 17, your solve will get a +2 penalty, or +2 seconds to your overall time. And if you go over 17 seconds, you will get something known as a did not finish penalty, DNF. Technically, this is a DNS because you didn't actually get to start your solve. It was penalized before you started your solve, but it's counted as a DNF, which is basically the same thing. So just make sure to use 12 seconds of inspection. You can use more if you feel confident enough that you can start the timer before 15 seconds. But my suggestion is just get used to putting your hands on the timer at 12. Also, when starting a timer, I suggest paying attention to this light. Another reason you want to start at 12, you want to pay attention until it turns green. When it turns green, then you start your solve, because there's a few people, including myself, who have failed to start a solve because of the light not turning green. So that's the basics to starting. The next penalties are DNFs and +2s due to cube turns. So for example, a +2 penalty occurs when one turn has been done to the cube when you stop the timer. So that means you're one turn away from solving. These calculations are done using what's known as the half-turn metric. This is one turn, this is one turn, this is one turn. Well, this is not. This is 2 turns. So if you get this, this is a +2. If you get this, this is a +2. If you get this, this is a +2, and so on. But if you get this, this is a DNF. If you get this, this is a DNF. And those are the basic +2s. Again, karate chop will result in a +2, and touching the cube before and while stopping, like touching it before starting and touching it before stopping will result in a +2 or DNF at discretion of the judge. But also touching the cube after the solve can count as a +2. So just make sure not to touch the cube until after your time has been written down, and then you can hand the cube to the judge or put it in the box, and all that. Now let's talk about one of our last penalties, and that is the one-piece penalty. So a singular piece may be removed from your cube, and the cube can still be considered solved. For example, on bigger cubes like 4x4 through 7x7, if a center is taken out, but only one center, the cube can still be considered solved as long as you solve all the other pieces. On 3x3, if a cap is removed, like the center cap or an edge cap or a corner cap, as long as it's one, it's fine. So if a whole edge pops out or a whole corner pops out, like so, then it is considered a DNF. So it has to be one colored piece. Not one piece, but one colored piece. But if it's removed, it can still be considered solved. Otherwise, it's considered unsolved and will be given a DNF penalty. Okay, so we're nearing the end of this video now. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is cube shops that you can get cubes from. So if you live in the US, you can use something like the Cubicle or Speedcube shop. But if you live in Canada, Speedcube shop and the Cubicle still deliver there as far as I'm aware. If you live internationally, so South America, Africa, Antarctica for some reason, Asia, Europe, and all that, or Russia. I know Russia's not a continent, but it's hard to tell sometimes which continent it's in. If you live in any of those places, then the Cubicle is a good option because I'm pretty sure that delivers internationally. And then a lot of places will have their own cube shops. So for example, New Zealand and Australia have their own. And then parts of Europe have their own. So Poland, for example, has its own shop. As far as I'm aware, it's Polish. So you can just look for SpeedCube shops. I personally use both SpeedCube shop and the Cubicle. Just depends on which one I feel like using. I've been using the Cubicle a lot more recently because it has all of the things that I like. And it has more cube options and more lubricant options than SpeedCube shop does. So it's always nice to check all of your shop options and pick one or two. And then that's it for episode 0 of the tutorial series. I hope you enjoyed. And hopefully you understand how to start with cubing now rather than just looking at it and be like, I don't know what this is and I don't know how to use it. Now you should know, okay, this is the timer. I need to put my fingers here. And then I need to put my fingers back here to stop the timer again. Before I go, I'm going to suggest a few different methods to start with. So obviously the cube you're probably going to want to start with is 3x3. If it's something else, I'll also bring a few of those up. So if you want to start with 3x3, there's a few different options you can start with. You can start with beginner's tutorial, you can start with a Roux tutorial, or you can start with a CFOP tutorial. These are the best beginner style methods because there's a lot of resources for all of these. There's also methods like ZZ and a few other methods, but those ones are a lot more complicated and specific. So I definitely suggest CFOP or beginner's tutorial, or even Roux. Roux is a very good option if you're looking for a more intuitive solving style and you understand how to use M moves. So yeah, all those methods are really good. There's a lot of good tutorials on those. I will be teaching the beginner's method and CFOP. I might also teach Roux though, as I am somewhat okay with it. Now, if you're looking at other events like 2x2 or Pyraminx or Scube, 2x2 has a lot of good resources for a beginner's style method. You can also look up Ortega, which is a good beginner's method, or even CLL. CLL does have 40 algorithms to learn, but you don't have to learn them all to be good with CLL. You just have to learn most of them. I really suggest Ortega for a starting method on 2x2. I personally still use it, but that's because I don't care enough for 2x2 to be sub 2 seconds. Or even sub 3 seconds consistently. So Ortega can get you really far, and it's a really good beginner's method. And then if you're looking for Pyraminx, there's a good bunch of beginner's tutorials. You don't have to dive straight into L4E. So just look up Pyraminx beginner's tutorials for Pyraminx. And then for Scube, there's a few different easier methods. I just suggest looking at Scube beginner tutorials as well. Though if you're looking for a more intermediate solving style for Scube, Sarah's Intermediate is pretty easy to learn. I'm personally learning Sarah's Advanced right now because I've grown an interest in Scube algorithms for some reason. But that has a lot of algorithms, so Sarah's Intermediate is good enough to get sub 10 really easily, and as low as sub 5, and probably lower. I just personally have a plateau at sub 5. But yeah, so there's a lot of different resources and methods and videos and websites and tutorials and all that. So I suggest looking into it heavily. Thanks for watching. This has been episode 0 of the Cubing tutorial series, and I will see you in episode 1.